All right, a second facet here in regards to serving Jesus and enjoying the ride as we go is that we are to keep a tender heart. You know, if anybody had a right to be hardened, hard-hearted, and even harsh, it would have been Paul. Stop and look at his life for a moment. Paul endured hardships beyond belief. I mean, this man was shipwrecked, beaten multiple times. He was stoned, left for dead. He took the whip with 39 lashes across his back. 5 times he took that. He went without food, was imprisoned for his faith, was mocked and run out of city after city in fear for his life. One time he had to be lowered over the city wall to escape the very individuals who were coming to attack him. And all of this happened as he served and preached about Jesus Christ. You know, if there was a person who could have been bitter, it would have been him. His cry in defense before God could have very well been, but God, why me? I mean, why me when I've served you so diligently? And why me when I've been so faithful? And why me, God, when I'm out here doing your work? But that's never Paul's heart. Paul always remained tender-hearted. And he speaks to Timothy and to the churches that he writes to with such tenderness. In fact, he says to Timothy, to my beloved son Timothy in the faith. My beloved son in the faith, Timothy. Is how he starts 1 Timothy chapter 1 and verse 1. So Paul's heart is tender. He speaks to Timothy and the churches he writes to with tenderness. Somewhere in the course of life, between the time that he used to persecute believers, remember, just feverishly out to persecute and imprison believers, from that time to the place of fullness in his ministry, he gained a tender heart. And from that tenderness, he's able to say, I count it all joy to have lived and served the living God. One of the many things I've learned as I have grown older is that a tender heart keeps a person acting more like Jesus. It helps you to be kinder to others. You offer more grace. You make greater allowances. And age and maturity makes you more sensitive to the Holy Spirit, allowing you to hear His voice and to respond more quickly. It allows you to be more in touch with who you are and your softer side. There's no longer the need to wear the mask. I was at district council a little more than about a month ago, and I met up with Joe and Ann Tremontosi. They're the individuals who host the Special Touch Ministries. And as I saw them across the way, and I began to approach them, our eyes connected, and I began to watch for them, my heart just filled with a sense of tenderness. By the time I reached them, my eyes were full of tears. You know, it was just one of those things. I had a special bond with them because of the things that God had allowed happen a year or so ago. And as I gave my hug, I'm just flowing with tears. I'm thinking, what's this all about, you know? And yet, that's what it was all about. When I saw Wayne Brown, and God had placed upon my heart the missionary in Thailand, after knowing that he's gone through this terrible situation and battle, physical battle at this point in time. I saw him, he was back in the back row. I ran up to him, I gave him the biggest hug I could possibly give. I wouldn't let go of him. I just hugged him and hugged him and hugged him, knowing that this man needed somebody to be tender toward him, needed somebody who identified with his need, needed somebody who cared for him. And I felt like I was Jesus, wrapping my arms around him and showing him the love of Christ. That's what tender hearts do. It makes you live with a new tenderness to others, a new tenderness to your family. It simply has proven that a tender heart does you no wrong. In fact, it does you a whole lot of good. Here's what Paul's words in Life Against teach us. They teach us that we shouldn't allow the hard knocks of life to harden us. Anybody have any hard knocks? Don't let them harden you. We shouldn't take offense when things don't seem to go according to plan. I'm a great planner. And I'm not one who likes to have that plan upset or changed. I'm getting better at that. So many people have told me I've mellowed over the years. In fact, maybe I have, I don't know. But when things don't go our way, when the plan changes, we shouldn't take offense. And we shouldn't get cynical or bitter when life takes some bad turns. We will not get to this place where we say, well, why me? I mean, God is still in control, and He loves us lavishly. He protects us nonetheless. You know, the heart that is right with God will be right with others, right with the Spirit, and right with our families. God can do little with a hardened heart. Yet He does wonders with a heart that is tender toward Him, tender toward others, and tender with life in general. You know, I find that the more tender I become before God, and the more tender I become with others, the more I sense God's empowerment within my life. And the more I enjoy this ride called life. It's one of those things where I just think, wait, wow, God used me, and I feel good about that. It's not one of those things where you're pushing, and maybe it's a midlife thing, I don't know. When you guys get there, let me know. So we can serve God and we can enjoy the ride as we go. There's a third facet here that I want us to look at as we serve God and enjoy the ride, and it is that to relax and simply enjoy life. But there are times when we let life wrap us, wind us so tight that we can't really relax and enjoy life. And yet the longevity of someone's life has a way of putting things in perspective. You know, when you are younger and pushing to rise to the top, it's all about, you know, achieving, proving oneself, acquiring the trophies life seems to offer. But somewhere around midlife, you lay down those demands that once held you, and you realize life is about more important things. Getting to the absolute top isn't so critical. Making that six-figure income isn't so much worth chasing. You know, in fact, one person said when we are younger, we sacrifice our health to gain wealth. But when we are older, we spend that wealth in an attempt to buy back our health. You know, life holds bigger. The truth is, life holds bigger trophies. Not the trophies that the world can pay, but trophies found in relationships and experiences, and trophies that are being laid up for the other side of this world. You begin to realize that life, even as we serve God, is about people and fun and having a well-balanced life. In fact, I read two posts written by pastor friends of mine that spoke well to this issue. These obviously were posts that were coming out of maybe their Father's Day message. But listen to them. One said, don't be a hero to the stranger and a stranger to your children or your family. And the other, I think, was equally impactful. And it said, God is looking for men who will place people over profits. You know, each of these quotes speaks of that relational aspect of man. And it ties right back to the fact that God has created us with a desire, in fact, a need for fellowship. Fellowship with Him and fellowship with one another. When you have all of life's trophies lined up on the mantle, and your office wall can no longer hold the plaques of acclamation, if you've not built at least a few close and lasting relationships, you are most miserable. It's why Paul instructs Timothy to command those who are rich in this present world to put their hope in God. He says you've gotten to a place where you have some wealth, you've gotten to a place where you now have achieved, then put your hope in God. Be rich in good deeds, and be generous and willing to share. I want to go on record as saying it is a lie that he who dies with the most toys wins. That is a lie. You can have the most toys and lose miserably at life and in the life to come. You can have the most toys and lose your family. You can have the most toys and not have a real friend to call on in the midst of trouble. In fact, your greatest asset in life really lies in two basic categories. One, your relationship and love for God. And two, your relationship and love for your family and others. You know, I'm all for a complete sellout for God. I believe in the all-in concept of living this Christian life, that it's got to be 100% all the time for God. However, I equally believe that it can be done without wearing some holier-than-thou cloak, where we look as if we're suffering for Jesus all the time, and somehow that's to our credit. I believe that the Christian life can and should be one of joy and gladness and praise and excitement, that we ought to be happy in Jesus. I really just firmly believe that's what God ordained for us. And I believe that we can do all this and as we relax the drive to possess this world, and we simply have fun in Jesus, have fun in Him, being diligent to His calling, and along the way just enjoying the ride. You know, just kind of, there's no reason not to be happy and excited and just to enjoy the whole thing. You know, the truth is, if you can get around some happy Christians, it's contagious. I mean, if you get around some of those who are ever drunk in the Spirit, that can be hilarious. I mean, you can, one of those things where if you get around some people who are really, really happy, it'll light up your life. And the truth is, it brings pleasure to God. The fact is that God desires that we seek a well-balanced life, one of complete surrender, full commitment, yet one of joy and gladness. And God says, taste and see that I am good. And the life He calls us to is a good life, one full of goodness and mercy. In fact, it says, that in the scriptures that if we follow after Him, that surely goodness and mercy shall follow us all of our days. And I think it was in Mark Batterson's book, The Circle Maker, where he talks about that word follow there, means that He will hunt you down. He'll hunt you down in order to bless you with goodness and mercy. I'm thinking, how cool is that? That God has my interest in that much foremost on His mind. That God is going to hunt me down to show me goodness and mercy. So my calling then, if I'm going to have God bless me with goodness and mercy and give me all of these things, is to simply serve Him well. And as I'm serving Him, enjoy this life.